The Galactic Council had made their decision. If humanity wanted to join the United Systems Alliance, they would need to prove themselves capable of surviving the standard military training regimen. Not the human version, the real one, conducted on Valdris 7, a Class 4 hazard world. Commander Zixthora of the Krellian Empire watched through the observation deck as the latest batch of recruits arrived. 47 species represented, including, for the first time in Council history, a human. The creature called itself Jack Morrison, a former U.S. Marine who'd volunteered when Earth's application was submitted. This will be educational, Zixthora clicked to her second-in-command. The human will learn humility. Jack stepped off the transport shuttle, his standard-issue environmental suit reading the atmospheric composition. Breathable, if a bit thin. Gravity at 1.8 g, heavier than Earth, but manageable. Temperature hovering around 102 degrees Fahrenheit. He'd trained in worse conditions in Arizona. The other recruits were already struggling. A Vexillian cadet, its crystalline structure vibrating with stress, could barely move under the increased gravity. Two Faridian twins held each other up, their multiple limbs trembling. Attention! Drill instructor Gormak bellowed, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. The Thunderian was built like a tank, with armored hide that could deflect small arms fire. Welcome to your nightmare. 50% of you will wash out in the first week. Another 30% won't make it to month 2. The rest of you might, earn the right to call yourselves soldiers. Jack raised his hand. Gormak's eyes narrowed. The human speaks. This should be amusing. Sir, when do we eat? I skipped breakfast. A wave of shocked gasps rippled through the assembled recruits. Several translators malfunctioned, unable to process such audacity. You'll eat when I say you eat, maggot. Which will be after you complete your first exercise. Gormak pointed toward a mountain range in the distance. 15 kilometers. Full gear. You have 3 hours. Begin. The recruits scattered. Jack checked his pack, 60 pounds of equipment, and started jogging at a comfortable pace. Around him, aliens were already falling behind, their biology unsuited for sustained physical exertion in high gravity. By kilometer 5, Jack had passed half the group. A Zenthari officer, gasping through his respiratory slits, stared in disbelief as the human jogged past, whistling an old Creedence Clearwater Revival tune. By kilometer 10, only a handful remained in motion. Jack took a moment to hydrate and pulled out a protein bar he'd smuggled in his pack. Is that food? Wheezed Cadet Tilven, a Morphasian whose gelatinous body was literally evaporating in the heat. Want half? Jack broke off a piece. We're not supposed to have. Don't tell if you don't. Jack winked and continued forward. He finished the course in 2 hours and 17 minutes, beating Gormak's own record by 3 minutes. The drill instructor's face was unreadable as Jack saluted and requested permission to help bring in the stragglers. The real shock came during week 2, in the survival phase. The recruits were dropped individually into the scorch wastes, a desert region where daytime temperatures reached 140 degrees Fahrenheit and nighttime plummeted to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Predators included the 6-legged Rathgear, whose venom could dissolve most known biological compounds, and swarms of needleflies that could strip flesh from bone. Command expected casualties. They always did in this phase. Jack was assigned Zone 7, considered the most dangerous sector. Zixthora watched his vitals from orbit, waiting for the inevitable distress beacon. It never came. Instead, on day 3, long-range surveillance caught something impossible. The human had constructed a shelter, started a fire using local materials, and was cooking something. Zoom in, Zixthora ordered. The image clarified. Jack had trapped 2 Rathgears, removed their venom sacs with precision, and was roasting the meat over an open flame. He'd even made what appeared to be a rudimentary seasoning from local plants. He's eating the apex predator, someone whispered. No, Zixthora corrected, her scales paling. He's enjoying it. By week 4, only 12 recruits remained. 8 of them had formed a group around Jack, who'd somehow become their de facto leader despite being the lowest-ranked member. He taught them tricks, how to find water in the crystalline caves, which plants were edible, how to move efficiently in high gravity. The final test was the Gauntlet, a 48-hour continuous combat simulation against automated drones in the Razor Canyons. No recruit had ever completed it solo. The best teams managed 70% completion before surrendering. Jack went in alone. Command had secretly increased the difficulty specifically for him. 41 hours later, he emerged with a 98% completion rate. The remaining 2% was because he'd stopped to eat lunch, a stew he'd made from rations and local herbs, while perched on a cliff overlooking the battlefield. When the transport arrived to extract the graduates, Gormac approached Jack personally. "Human Morrison. Your performance was adequate." Jack grinned. Coming from Gormac, that was the highest praise possible. "Thank you, sir. When's the next course?" "Next course?" Gormac's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Yeah. This was basic training, right?" The drill instructor stared at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time in 30 years of service, he laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that echoed across the landing pad. "Command," Gormac said into his comm, "we need to recalibrate our training protocols. I think we've been going too easy on them." Zixthora, listening from orbit, looked at her staff. "Revise humanity's threat assessment. Immediately." "To what level, Commander?" She watched Jack on the screen, sharing his lunch with the exhausted Tilven, teaching the Morphasian some human song about fortunate sons. "Don't classify them as warriors," she said quietly. "Classify them as survivors. There's a difference. Warriors are made. But these humans, they evolved for it." Jack Morrison, completely unaware of the chaos his species had just caused in galactic military doctrine, bit into his sandwich and smiled. It reminded him of the camping trips back in Montana with his dad, Tom Morrison, a former Army Ranger who'd always said the secret to surviving anything was simple: stay positive, stay moving, and never skip a meal. "Good advice, Pops," Jack muttered, watching the twin suns set over Valdris 7. "Good advice."